This is how a narcissistic person completely destroyed me. And also why I needed that to happen. For about 1 year I was trapped in their mental prison until I decided to move, because there was no other way out for me. I was completely unable to escape their psychological grip. It was like being cursed by a demon. Even if I knew that I wasn't around the narcissistic person, it was still there because I couldn't let it go. It drove me completely mad. In the end, through all of that destruction that happened to me, I became somebody completely different, and I even got to a point where I understood that I had to be completely destroyed, because I discovered what my abused self was missing. The beginning of the trap. I recently moved to Groningen, and soon I met the neighborhood, and also including the narcissistic person. They were already annoying me. I was like playing music at my home, and then that person came to me. "Oh, you can't do that. I'm shaking off my couch." And I just said, "Well, okay." But I should have said, "Well, enjoy shaking then." Because that person was just sitting at home doing nothing with their life. At that time I just accepted everything, because I had no idea that's how narcissistic people work. First they test you, and then they slowly work their way, and if their test succeeds on you, see if they can get a way to manipulate you. At the time I just accepted everything at the consent of my people pleasing and that person just being miserable as fuck, which in fact was the case, but they were trying to project their troubles onto me, or maybe if you're going through this, onto you. So be sure that if you are experiencing anything like this, you don't let them in on anything, just fuck them. Soon after, the hallway encounter started, where their psychological games started to play, and I didn't realize it at the time, but that is where my destruction began. They had their hook completely into me now, and I had no idea. The descent into hell, how they broke me. During the worst part of this abusive period, I was working a dead-end job. I see working a job that you don't really have passion for as slavery, but the fun thing is, I went to that job as most as I could. I spent way too much time there, because then I was away from the narcissistic abuse. This slavery, it was like freedom to me. I was trading wage slavery for freedom from the narcissistic abuse. So from one slavery to the other, right? It's ironic, isn't it? Me and that narcissistic person lived together in the same apartment block. And that practically created a hellish situation. There was always the chance that I would encounter that narcissistic person. That really ended up getting in my head. So every time that I went home or went outside to do something, I had a chance to encounter that narcissistic person, and that led to me not going outside and just going crazy from going home or the supermarket. I really couldn't stop obsessing over their projection. I was a mental slave to them, and I had no way out. I had completely lost my mind and my personality because I was so extremely preoccupied with that person. Even though I didn't want it, but I was made to do it. Like, I was enslaved to them. It was especially dangerous combination that I was already lost and I was stopping drugs. So I just needed quiet, peace and continuous easygoing in life. But I got the exact opposite. I didn't realize that at the time, but in fact it made me a perfect target for them. Every encounter with that person became a struggle. Sometimes I won from them, or sometimes they won from me. But in the end, I always felt shitty after I encountered that person and whatever happened. That narcissistic, I found out, was just an alcoholic who didn't work, had no ambitions, did nothing with their life, no relationship, no children, nothing. That narcissistic person had a home sign. And people with a home sign in their home need to be reassured that they're home. So they're not really home. They have to be reassured by that stupid ass home sign. I kept rationalizing their abuse away as, oh, they're so miserable, which they were, but that was not a reason for me to take the abuse. Oh, they're just troubled, I'll just take the hit to make them feel better for a second. That's what I thought. This is the people pleasing from my childhood that now came back to me to completely destroy me and rebuild me stronger than I ever was before. The breaking point when I became them. There's a saying, don't fight your enemies so long until you become them. Now I failed to do this. My life became a living hell. I couldn't do anything without thinking about the narcissist. I barely left my apartment. I wanted to escape, but I couldn't. My life was in fact a paradox at that time. My cat was my only comfort. I was so messed up from everything that happened that I couldn't even give my cat the love that she deserved. Now they're doing great and they're spoiled like a little brat. The isolation led to worse depression. I had no idea what I wanted to do in my life at that time. So this, in combination with everything that happened, led this being one of the darkest periods of my life. That narcissistic person had this dog, this annoying dog that I could hear barking all the time at everything. People walking by, dogs walking by, fucking air. That barking of that dog, I tied it to the narcissistic abuse. So even if that narcissistic person was away, then the dog continued torture, and it was so bad. I was driven completely crazy by it. It went so bad that I started to associate dog barking with badness, with negativity, even after I moved away. It was literally psychological torture. I tried to complain to that person, but they wouldn't listen, of course. They just rationalized it away. It's just a dog bark. This abuse got so bad, it actually damaged my energetic body. I was pushed outside of my own body from the abuse because the narcissist literally took over my body. It took me 2 years to realize this, after this abuse of approximately 1 year had happened. And it took me 2 years to put myself back inside my body and to get all the nasty energy that narcissist projected onto me out again. My brain chemistry had also changed. I had chronic stress, my cortisol levels were way off the chart. Even when that narcissistic wasn't home, the damn dog kept up the abuse, leading to my brain being completely wired to be permanently in fight or flight mode. The childhood wound, why I was the perfect target. The patterns came from my parents. They didn't raise me in the correct way. I had to go outside of myself to make my parents feel happy and please them in a way. I couldn't really act as how I really were during my childhood. As a child, I assumed that I wasn't good enough because I had to go outside of myself to please my parents. But in reality, their faulty upbringing made me feel that way. I had learned to project my energy outwards onto others to fix their moods, and as return, I always got shitty others where I could project my energy onto them. Reality is a mirror. You get exactly what you believe you are. So I got exactly what I believed that I was, until I decided that it wasn't gonna continue anymore. And that then led to the narcissistic abusive period where I could transmute that behavior of myself. I was programmed to give them energy. This made me into the perfect supply for a narcissist. That's how my entire youth practically conspired against me until the period of the narcissistic abuse, where I actually faced myself in a way because I had no way to get out of the abuse. So I had to confront myself later and realize why and why and why. And that's why the narcissistic abuse destroyed me, so that I could let go of my old identity in which something was fundamentally lacking, namely thinking that I wasn't good enough. Thank you, Mom and Dad. You ruined my childhood and a good portion of my life. The escape. How I got out of this situation. Finding another place seemed impossible. I didn't want to go back to renting shitty condos, so I didn't do that. I visited my mom and my brothers every week to vent from this experience. I tried to make them feel how bad it was. I couldn't get my point across. They don't have this psychological hypersensitivity that I do. So I moved in with my brother. My mom went to live with her boyfriend at the time. I became that narcissist. I was completely psychologically overtaken by them. They had me practically cursed and under a very nasty spell. And sadly, I started projecting onto my brother what that narcissist did to me, damaging our relationship. We're rebuilding it now, but the guilt remains. This was the price that we had to pay as a family for this. Apologies can't undo the hurt. So the Dutch have a saying, boontje komt om zijn loontje. What you send out comes back. So now that I'm gone, you can only imagine how that narcissist person must feel right now, facing themselves, all that hate that they projected onto me. It has now completely come back onto them, and they have no choice but to fix their life. Whew, that's gonna be a tough one for them. The rebirth. How I became stronger from all of this shit. Having required complete solitude in all of this. I literally lost every single person that I had in my life. So I had to rediscover who I truly was and not crawl back into the old self. I have lived a long portion of my life under a false identity. I was always running away from myself because I didn't believe that I was good enough. I had my false identity taken over by the narcissist. So that part was destroyed of myself. So I had no other way but to go back inside and find out who I truly was. And the years of me running away as a dubstep artist compounded with this abusive period. And that, also in combination with the drug addiction that I had in my life, led this to being quite a chase. Quite a quest, you might say, to find myself again after all of this bullshit happened. The journey back, it was a very long one, but in the end, the rewards were totally worth it. For the first time, after this crazy abuse and all that shit that happened in my life, I know who I am. I learned to set boundaries, I learned to protect myself, I learned to attack when it's necessary, and all of those three things, I had no idea before how to even do that and recognize when people cross the line. Sometimes the old patterns resurface because, well, they've been inside me for so long. But compared to before the abuse, I'm like a child compared to an adult in terms of strength. God placed me and the right people exactly at the right time in front of me so that I could, in fact, learn how to properly interact with people again, because I had completely lost how to interact with people on a normal basis because my identity was destroyed. So I returned to my own wholeness slowly, very slowly and painfully. While that narcissist was even more fractured than they already been after I left that, and they had no place else to project their bullshit on. Now I'm living alone. I have few friends, but I'm finally free because I have finally gone inside of myself and discovered who I truly am. I've practically fully recovered from that abusive period. And now I'm actually understanding why it had to happen to me. It burned away a version of myself that wasn't really me. And that version of myself was created by my upbringing, my false childhood, that I confused love with surrender. The person that I was could not have survived in this, most of the time, pretty harsh world. So through complete destruction became rebirth. It's very strange for me to say this, but I'm actually grateful that I went through that hell. Because it's forged someone unbreakable. And if you're in this battle now, hold on, because the other side is worth it. You can get through this, because I went through too. So, this was the story of how I healed from my narcissistic abusive period. If you're going through something like this, know that everything in life happens for a reason, and you may not even see to what end why you have to go through this now, but know that God or whatever you want to call a high power, let everything happen for our own growth and benefit. Keep going through this. Don't give up on yourself. Don't let them break you. Find a solution. If you have the courage and mental fortitude, you can try to teach them a lesson. Next time you encounter them, say go fuck yourself. Or if you have the guts, put on a cover, so like this, and then just smack them in the face. But don't sue me if you get any legal issues from doing something like that. If you're trying to make someone feel better, some narcissistic person or whatever, because you feel sorry for them, don't, because they're in fact feeling sorry for themselves. So just forget about them, don't care about them. Even if you have to end up putting everything out of your life, just getting rid of your job, going into unemployment for a while, not giving your family the love it needs, just do it, because this is how you can end up completely healing yourself, by going inward, really, really deep inward, in isolation, maybe even in solitude, and then transmuting yourself into something new, and then going back out of it as the strongest version you've ever been. So the fun thing is, I actually ended up making this video as a way to fully process that experience. I hope you got some insights out of it, as of why you might have to go through a narcissistic abusive period, or whatever, someone that's abusing you, or maybe you just enjoyed this story, maybe it gives you hope, maybe it shows you something about yourself that you didn't know before, as the same thing that it did with me. So now go to that narcissist, just project your hate onto them instead, and then we'll see who laughs the hardest, because you know that they're the ones who are truly miserable and you're the one who's complete. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.